Good evening, good morning or good afternoon everyone, depending on your time zone. Welcome to Sisel's Doctor's Clinic. Your host tonight, usually from Denver, Colorado, but tonight as a road warrior in Auburn, Indiana, Daniel D.W. Whited. Dr. Cornelius Mance is in the house.
Dr. Mance is with us. And just maybe a tad bit of background, I'll let him share a couple things. But we're going to get into the topic of Fucoidan here in just a few minutes. But Dr. Mance, is a medical doctor, and he's done a lot of pretty cool things. But probably one of his greatest accomplishments, based on what I can tell, is that he's been married 40 years, and that's kind of exciting to him. And they have 2 children. And so you can do a lot of things in life, but those are the things that really, really matter. And so just kind of giving you a little bit of background there. And he attended medical school at the University of Tennessee, just so that you know, in the Center for Health and Sciences there. And so what we want to do now, and that was then his undergraduate work took place, and maybe I'll let him just tell you just a briefly on that. Dr. Mance, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Well, welcome to the call, and it's great to talk to you again. You've sure been a blessing to a lot of people, and then I run into folks from time to time, and they learned this from you, or they heard that from you, and you helped Miss Helen and I out a time or two, and we appreciate that very much. So one of the things that, just real quick here, and then I'll ask you a couple of questions, but right off the bat, just share a little bit about you and kind of, just introduce yourself to everybody real quick.
Well, I'm, about 67 years old. I was born in Trenton, Tennessee, which is a big town in West Tennessee, in which I subsequently went to HBCU college, and then I went to med school. And my life kind of started on the road I'm on in medicine with at age 5, in which I became very ill. And I basically was so sick, and I prayed to God to take me back home if I had to be sick any longer. And I was carried to my little local doctor in my hometown, and I received an injection, and immediately when I received an injection, I could feel the illness just disappeared. And that was the moment I said I wanted to be a physician to help somebody like he helped me. And after I finished med school, I worked in a program called SCORE, which was dealing with people with malignant hypertension. And those people who came with blood pressure like 250 over 130 or in that range came in the hospital continuously with heart attacks, brain hemorrhages, kidney failure. And when we gave them free medication and the blood pressure became under control, the incidence of this decreased 50%. And so that was a crowning jewel to say applied knowledge can have a drastic impact in human life. And so as I move forward into my practice of neurology and medicine, I began to see how this could impact people. And so basically for me is that over the last 4 years when I got involved with Sisel, I began to see products and that was natural, homeopathic, that would basically be able to impact lives in addition to Western medicine, as with UDW, in which you contract an infection, and because of you using products that enhance your immune system, you was able to survive a condition that even with us as physicians say that 90% of them do not survive. And so this is where we are right now with some of the products that we are exposed to, that we continue to see how they can impact lives if we just be able to spread the good news and get people to use them.
Well, and that's amazing. It's interesting how you basically we're almost commissioned into medicine and helping people and wanting to pass on what's happened to you. That's pretty exciting. One of the things I want to get into this evening just a little bit and have you just jump in there. I don't care if you talk about ingredients and maybe a few case studies that you've seen take place. I mean, everybody knows we don't claim to cure or heal anybody with with what we have our hands on, but we sure give people a fighting chance. And so let's talk about Fucoidan. I mean, it is the number one product that we have, and it's just an impact product. It's a game changer for so many people, and so I'm just anxious to kind of hear from you. You've researched, you've studied, now you've used it in your practice. I believe you and your wife personally use it as well. And so you can come from a medical point of view, a practical point of view, and a case study point of view, and talk to us tonight just a little bit about Fucoidan. And if I think of a question, I may just jump in there. If not, let's just keep rolling here and see if we can learn some things.
Okay, one of the things people may ask, what is Fucoidan? Fucoidan is a brown seaweed, and basically it has amazing properties, and it's been used for centuries, especially in the Tonkin Islands in Japan, and it's found other places. But for some reason, the brown seaweed that we use, it basically has two components, F, U, and G component. But when you think about Fucoidan, this brown seaweed, it has about 8 different types of saccharides. And these saccharides have a tendency to have promote cellular communication. And so when you produce cellular communications, you begin to enhance the body to do the things that it should do. And so what happened is that we are so fortunate that someone invented a machine that in nature, Fucoidan is sulfonated 1:8. By the process, by breaking this into chains, into smaller particles, they're able to sulfonate the Fucoidan at 8:8. Therefore, the bioavailability of this product is increased 8 times. So basically what you really find, anything on the market right now does not compete with the type of Fucoidan that we are talking about now. But when I basically began to look at this, I kind of wondered, well, what does it do? And so when I first started seeing it, I thought about people who had, say, inflammatory diseases or had sarcoidosis, which is a granulomatous type of condition affect any parts of the body that many people have lung problems, brain problems, kidney failure, muscle problems. And one of the things that when I first got involved with it, I had a young man who had sarcoidosis, and basically it had spread to his brain. And basically he started having seizures and had stroke-like symptoms, and he was placed in the hospital, and he was about 39 years old. And with that, he was going to go on a hospice. And so basically, when you start thinking about a 39-year-old young man who has his whole life before him, what can you do for him? So basically, I gave him a couple bottles of Fucoidan, and he started taking it. And his family bought him some extra ones over the next several months. But what happened is that this young man basically had stopped having seizures. He basically functioned basically normal now. So basically, that was the same story that we had with a young man was in the business before we came about, who had sarcoidosis, and he was taking Fucoidan, and his disease went into remission. And so basically, that was one of the first, aha moments that I saw with Fucoidan. And then if you move it forward, for me, is that when I first got involved in business, I saw Aaron Rennert, who basically was in a van bike accident, and I happened to see a picture of him in the accident. And in 6 days after taking Fucoidan in the Triangle of Life, his face completely healed after having hundreds of stitches in his face. And so this kind of showed that Fucoidan has a tendency to cause enhanced wound healing and increased cell growth that allows injuries to repair itself extremely fast. Also, I had a young lady who had knee surgery, and she was taking Fucoidan for quite some time. And after she had her corrective knee surgery, in 4 days she was walking in the airport. Again, she was amazed at how fast it occurred, and also her physical therapist says she had never seen anyone heal this fast. And just over the last 2 months, a young man who had to have shoulder surgery, and he was taking Fucoidan, and after his shoulder surgery, he started taking 2 or 3 ounces a day, and he returned back to the doctor and the therapist. In 3 weeks, his shoulder had recovered as those 3 months. And so now he has pretty full range of motion off his shoulder. So we are seeing how just taking this product alone can accelerate and promote wound healing and cellular growth that it just kind of amazes you. And so that's one of the things I'm seeing with that. My son, who basically had reconstructive surgery for a torn rotator cuff and labrum tear at age 17 related to football injury, and which for the last 10 years he never told us that every time he would move suddenly or do certain movements, he would feel a pop or severe pain in his shoulder. After taking Fucoidan for approximately a month, he began to note that the pain and the stiffness and the popping and the severe pain began to dissipate. And so what you begin to see, these are just a few of the studies, few of the incidents that who took on to use Fucoidan consistently, and they saw a great improvement. So that's just one of the benefits of Fucoidan is based on enhanced wound healing and promote, stimulate growth and bone healing.
Let me ask you this. When it comes to building your immune system, and maybe even giving someone, of course there's a lot of studies about, the advantages of how it can help someone who's fighting cancer and help them get a little bit of a fighting chance. So can you talk about some of the properties that are in it or how it can help with the building the immune system?
Okay. Building the immune system is that one of the things that most people don't realize is that what does cancer tell you? Most people, you ask that question, what does cancer in the body represent? And they don't realize that a cancer in the body represents an immune system that has failed between 10 to 15 years. Because a cancer cell starts at one cell and begin to multiply and divide. But most of the time we're producing about 30,000 cancer cells every day. And our immune system recognizes them and destroys them immediately because this is abnormal. And so what happens is that if you do not have a very high cellular immunity, these cancer cells are not recognized and they begin to multiply and subsequently will cause you to have, sooner or later it will spread and cause, I guess you could say it kills the body. And once it reaches a certain critical mass, the whole system begins to fail. But the beauty of Fucoidan works on 3 different levels. And I think this is one of the things that if you read the book called The Amazing Power of Fucoidan, this is a book I would recommend everyone to get. You can get it from Barnes & Noble or you can get it from Amazon. The Amazing Power of Fucoidan. And so what happened is that as he explains it, Fucoidan attacks cancer cells on 3 different ways. The first way is that you think about we all have a genetic program in our cells that once our cells reach a certain maturity or a certain length, they self-destruct. And when they self-destruct, it does not stimulate the immune system. So if you are able to activate this genetic program in cancer cells, it will cause these cells to self-destruct, and so we call this apoptosis. And so what happens is that Fucoidan, for some reason, combines with the cancer cells and causes the cells to self-destruct. The other thing it does is that cancer cells spread because for some reason cancer cells begin to secrete chemicals that will cause these blood vessels, new blood vessels to grow to the cancer cells. and therefore this allows this cancer cells to get greater blood supply, greater nutrients, and then begin to metastasize. For some reason, Fucoidan is inhibit this angiogenesis, and therefore the cancer cells have a tendency not to spread, because metastasis is one of the things when the cancer cells spread to other parts of the body and begin to set up shop and grow. The part about the immunity is that we have an intrinsic immunity. We have white cells, monocytes, polycytes, lymphocytes, and then we also have macrophages, killer cells, and T cells, which basically most people say that's talking different things. But these cells participate in preventing cancer cells growth, but also allow the cancer cells to be recognized, and they begin to attack them and destroy them. So just picture if you had a cancer cells that, one, the something causes it to auto-destruct, two, prevent it from spreading, and three, cause your immune system to become more resilient and responsive, and this causes your body to destroy it. So you have a threefold attack. One of the things for me is that, what excites me is that about 3 years ago, I came in contact with a young man who was about in his 90s, who I recognized him almost like a father, and I saw him in the hospital, and he had lost over 30 or 40 pounds and very, very weak. And I saw him on Tuesday. On Thursday, after giving him Fucoidan and also Spectrumac, he went from saying, I feel pretty good, to I feel great. He took the chemotherapy and Fucoidan and Spectrumac. In 3 months, he gained 30 to 40 pounds, and today he's back driving. And my story of the last 3 weeks, I recall a young man I've been seeing who came to see me at the hospital, at my office, and said, I've been diagnosed with having esophageal cancer, metastasis to the stomach and to the liver. And he basically said, I'm going to MD Anderson in Texas. They told me that there's no cure and that they can slow it down. And I looked at him, and because I've been relating to him over about 2 or 3 years, and I said, could I make a suggestion to you? And I told him about the Fucoidan and Spectrumac, and he started taking about 5 to 6 ounces a day. And every time he would come back every 6 months, he would bring reports and scans, and the cancer in his esophagus and his stomach and the metastasis in the liver was getting smaller and smaller. About 3 weeks ago, he came to my office and said, I have good news for you. And I was saying, what good news? He says, I have no cancer at all now. And he says, I went to see my primary care doctor, and she looked at me and said, I didn't expect to see you. And she looked at him and said, are you taking any type of natural or alternative medicine? And he said, yes. And she looked at him and she says, I knew what they was doing was not going to cause this to happen to you. And so what happened is that he was willing to step forward and do the investment in his health, but he continues to do the chemotherapy and radiation, the chemotherapy, but now he's cancer-free after 2.5 years. And so when you see events like that, testimonies like that, like Dr. Fitz always has been saying, if it works for you, it could work for you. If it worked for me, it could work for you. All you have to do is try it, especially when you start seeing when we in Western medicine says we cannot save you. What else can you do? But just step forth and do some things that could change your life. Hey, DW?
Yeah, right here, buddy. My next question, I hope this is okay with you. But we're seeing a lot. I mean, I remember when I first started using the Fucoidan, there was had suffered a back injury and the muscles were kind of swelled up in certain areas, and doc said I would have trouble with this certain challenge the rest of my life. But the Fucoidan seemed to give me some relief. It just helped with some of the inflammation, and I've seen others that even have a little bit of stuff going on with nerves and the whole 9 yards. So can you speak to how it can help a client with inflammation? And even circulation.
One of the things about Fucoidan, like I said, these saccharides, they have cellular communication. One of them is ease inflammation. So one of the things it works very well for is people have rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, or any type of inflammation. Like when you think about when you have an injury, what you do, the tissue become inflamed, and also you have influx of inflammatory cells which began to promote the healing process. And for some reason, Fucoidan have a tendency to calm this down and promote this growth factor that causes you to rebuild muscles, but also to turn inflammation off, which decrease irritation to the nerve fibers. But also it causes the joints and the bones and all these tissues to begin to function more normally. And you also have, in this case, you says, we live in two types of worlds. We have degeneration, or we can have regeneration. So regeneration is basically the opposite of degeneration, which causes repair of the tissues. And that's what happens when you begin to use this product. And that's why if you take Fucoidan, which does that, but when you add Eternity and Spectrum Max, you give the body all of the necessary minerals and vitamins and antioxidants. But another thing for Fucoidan, because it is it's antioxidant, it supports the body and prevent tissue injury. That's one of the things we look at. Lots of the nutrients that we have is dealing with that. But also with Eternity, you always have a tendency to reactivate the Saturn gene of youth, which basically get turned off at age about 25, and aging begin to accelerate. But also with Fucoidan, for some reason, it has a tendency to decrease the destruction of your telomeres, which is the biological clock. So if you can basically slow the degenerative process down, therefore you begin to have repair. And so the same thing like with my son, when he had shoulder injury, he had the surgery, which they cut through good tissue to get to bad tissue, but at the same time, his repair was not the way it should be. So one of the things you also tell people is that when you are doing this, it doesn't make sense to do things that accelerate inflammation or cause more oxidative stress. So one of the things we tell people, they should be hydrating, also eating proper nutrients, avoid sodas and things that is inflammatory. And so what happens is that if a person has back injuries, proper exercise, proper mechanics, all these things will allow your back to recover. And I've seen it happen with people who have done that.
That's exciting. Let's go to the next question, and this is going to be your toughest one to answer because it all depends. But however, I still want to jump into a little bit because you've mentioned, there's two questions. Number one, the gentleman that went to the doctor and got those good results, did he ask what he was using, or did he know he was using the Fucoidan? Now, the next question that I want you to jump into a little bit, and this, people need to experiment and try it as well, but it's dosage. Because you talked about someone taking a couple ounces a day, maybe someone fighting cancer might want to take a little more. Someone that's, the maintenance dose may be just what it says on the bottle. Can you jump into and get into that just a little bit?
Well, one of the things that he basically relates, he says, even though I went to this high cancer center, they told me that I couldn't be cured, that they only would slow it down. He says, even though they see that the cancer is gone, they never asked me, have I done anything different than what they was doing. Only person who asked him that was his primary care doctor, who basically looked at him and says, well, I knew they said they could not cure you, so if they couldn't cure you, you must be doing something different, because it was basically a death sentence. That's one of the things that he basically said. And what was your second question?
Well, the second question is, we're going to jump into dosage a little bit. How much, of Fucoidan should somebody use? How often should they use it?
Okay.
Those kind of things.
Yeah, to maintain your health daily, you take about three-fourths of an ounce per day. And if you think about how this Fucoidan has been developed, it's much more potent than anything on the market. So if you have cancer, the daily doses should be between 3 to 8 ounces. Most people, if you have you would take average about 5 or 6 ounces a day, which means you'll use a bottle every about 5 or 6 days. And so another thing what this young man did, he took the Fucoidan about 6 ounces a day. He also took 2 ounces of Spectrumac. But also now we begin to see that Eternity resveratrol is a very potent product also that can be used in conjunction. So basically I tell people, if you have cancer per se, you should take about 2 or 3 ounces of Eternity per day and take about 5 ounces of Fucoidan a day. That would be the average dose. The thing about this right here, there's no toxicity with this, except only thing you may develop initially, you may have a little loose stools, but that generally goes away. The one thing about Fucoidan, which is my wife says that she wishes she could take it, but she has a allergy to shellfish. And so anytime she come in contact with shrimp, she can have anaphylaxis. So people who are allergic to shellfish, on the bottle it says if you have an allergic reaction to shellfish, you shouldn't take it. So that'd be one of the things that happen. But also Fucoidan gives you it's rich in fiber. And so this will also cause you to have excellent bowel movements. And that's one of the things that's very important with respect to cancer. You need to make sure you're not constipated, that you have good bowel movements. That's why proper hydration and 3 or 4 bowel movements per day would be very good.
Well, when it comes to dosage, does the size of someone's body matter? In other words, should someone that is on the chubby side and trying to work their weight down, would they need a little more? Someone that's a little bit on the skinny side, I guess I don't know how else to say this, but would they need a little less? I mean, where are we at with that?
Well, I would probably say last young man, he weighed about 250. He's a big guy, and so the other guy, he weighed about 190 pounds. So I would probably say it doesn't really matter very much. But the thing is, what happens is that though no magical dose can be developed, but I would probably say if you have, ideally, if you can afford, if you have a cancer, what they says you only have 2 months to live, if you can afford a ball every 2 or 3 days, that would be best for you to see how you respond in 1 month. I think many times we have a tendency to try to say, what is the least amount I can take? But I look at probably for you, what you were saying, when you had this problem, you was using a large amount of the nutrients. You taking everything you could find because you was in a battle. And that's what happened with respect to patients with cancer or people who with diseases that basically has affected their lives. Or with people who have surgery. When they have surgery, many of these people have a long recovery. And I look back at for me is that I had surgery about 14 years ago. And I could picture it took me at least 6 weeks to be able to return back to work. But I know now if I was taking Fucoidan or had these products like Eternity, Spectrumac, and Fucoidan, which will promote healing, I probably could have been back 3 weeks. And I think many people don't realize is that taking a very high dose initially will accelerate. And that's what we saw with Aaron Rennert when he basically had his injury to his face and had the and because he was saying 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, when he went back to the surgeon couldn't hardly tell where that they had sutured his face. And so the scars and everything else was just amazingly cleared. And so I think what happens if a person is willing to invest into their own health, they can be amazed to see that the costs will be very low, because I think health is and recovery is very, very important.
Well, you know, the greatest gift you can give your family is your health. And hearing from you how you've been able to help others, when you have your patients that are using that, and you actually are giving them something and allowing them to participate in something that's really going to make an impact, you know, Dr. Mance, that's got to make you feel good.
Well, I remember a story my wife told me many, many years ago. She was working with a neurosurgeon, and this neurosurgeon would come into the operating room on Saturday night, in which he would have gunshot wounds and gunshots to the head, and he was doing all these surgeries. And he came out one day and looked at her and says, Miss Newsom, which she was a Miss Newsom at that time, every now and then you have a win, and that's what makes life great. And I think that's one of the things that happens to almost all of us, is that when we have a win, all the no's, all the failures begin to just fade away. And I think that's is what life is about, is that we have to recognize that we have goals and dreams and desires, but the desires is not under our control. And the goals is something we can do, which will cause those desires to become true. And one of the things that my son he kind of reminded me of is the serenity prayer. God, give me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And so when you can understand that and begin to live that, you begin to say, wow, there's a aha moment that can give you peace with the things you do, because you know that you can't win them all, but you can put yourself in a position that you can win them all.
Well, I love it, and that is and that's our philosophy. So, you know, and you're along with us. We believe in prayer and products, and God has been so good to bless us with these things. And when I did go through that necrotizing fasciitis soft tissue, and they looked at me and said, "Man, you're fighting for your life." And you know, the rest of the story we can get into another time, and you know it well. The Fucoidan is something that we just took it like crazy, and along with the triangle and Body Shield and Influence as well, and Omegas. But I mean, we took it, like you said, you're right. We took everything we could get our hands on, and we emptied those bottles fast. You know, but when you're fighting for your life, you throw everything you can at it. You throw your prayers, and which is your faith, and you throw your works. Well, Dr. Mintz, what a joy just to hear from you tonight. And you know, you just I guess the word delightful comes to mind. You got one of those delightful, awesome personalities that, you know, you care about people, and we just love that. So thanks for being part of the, you know, the doctor's clinic this evening. Is there anything you want to say in closing?
Well, I tell people just if you think about Sisel was created for a purpose of improving health first. Because if you got your health, you got potential of getting into everything. Without your health, you have nothing. And so I encourage people to just to have open mind, to just be able to, please don't be like me. About 20 years ago, someone came to me and told me about toxic chemicals in our personal care products, and I sat there and listened to him 30 minutes tentatively, walked away, and I probably act like I was doing him a favor. And 10 years later, I had a bad disease. I had cancer also. And 10 years later, I'm cancer-free. This information dropped in my lap again. And I'm so fortunate that we came in contact with Sisel. And with Sisel, with this product, Fucoidon, I see that is an opportunity that can really change lives and be able to impact lots of people. And so I hope people be able to take the time just to learn and grow and do their due diligence so that they can be able to say, I made a good decision. I thought about it, I looked at the information, and made objective decision rather than emotional decision thinking that someone trying to get something out of them.
And it is a emotional decision, and it's kind of like you don't want to wait until you're thirsty to dig a well, and that's what Dr. Mance is talking about here. Well, Dr. Mance, we appreciate you so much, and from Dr. Kurt Fisnick and myself and Miss Helen and the entire Sisel team, we thank you for stopping your night when you could be doing other things and spending it with us. But we just got on the phone and we made a conference call, and I call it the Doctor's Clinic house call. And so we just made us a house call all across the world, and everybody's going to get this call. You can get it out to everyone. You can go to SiselsDoctorsClinic.com and get all the recordings. And so just everybody, thanks for being part of the call tonight. And just get this out to those that you can, and understand Fucoidan, it really truly is a game changer, only if you take it. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Good night, Doctor.